Ah, the wild American West. Ain't a place more unforgiving, nor a land richer with stories of grit and glory. Tonight, I'll tell you about a man named Jedediah Kane, a name whispered from one end of these plains to the other. A hero, some say. And others, well, they'd call him haunted. Either way, Jedediah Kane's tale is one of resilience, loss, and a purpose so fierce it'd make even the coldest mountain shiver. So gather round, for this here is a story to warm the heart and stir the spirit. Jedediah Kane grew up hard, like most of us out here. But he had something a little different about him. Maybe it was his relentless spirit or that quiet strength in his eyes. Jedediah wasn't a loud man, but folk listened when he spoke. He was a cattle wrangler by trade, a man o' the land, and there wasn't a beast or bandit that could spook him. But like any hero worth his salt, Jed had himself a dream, a purpose that ran deeper than the rivers out here. Jed wanted to build a safe home for his family, something he himself never had. Back then, safety was scarce, with bandits and outlaws on one side and harsh elements on the other. But that didn't deter Jedediah. If anything, it only made his resolve stronger. Now, if you're looking for a simple life, the West ain't the place. Jed's dream didn't come without its troubles, and it wasn't long before he found himself on the wrong side of a dangerous gang led by a cutthroat named Lyle Grayson. Grayson was a real devil, a man who thought he owned every town, every river, and every life this side of the Rockies. He demanded protection money from the good folks trying to make a living, and anyone who refused learned the meaning of fear real quick. Jedediah, though, wasn't one to back down. He stood his ground when Grayson's gang came knocking and told them plain as day that he'd give no man a single coin earned from his sweat and blood. And that, well, that didn't sit right with Grayson. The gang started harassing Jed's family, stealing his cattle, and burning his barns. The hardship nearly broke him. He'd worked so hard, and it was all being taken away bit by bit. Now, here's where Jedediah Kane proved himself a true hero, not by brawling or shooting, but by the strength of his spirit. See, Jed could have run, he could have packed up his kin and left. But he wouldn't do it. Not while Grayson was running loose. Instead, he took it upon himself to defend his land and his neighbors too. Every night, Jed sat watch by the fire, rifle in hand, keeping guard over his family and those he loved. But as weeks turned to months, the toll began to show. He'd lost more cattle, more time, and his family's safety hung by a thread. His son, just a boy, once asked him, "Pa, why don't we just go somewhere else?" But Jedediah looked him square in the eye and said, "Son, a man don't run from what's his. You stay, you stand, and you fight, even if you're standing alone." Those words, they stayed with that boy, and as we'll see, they changed the whole town. It was around this time that Jed's stand-in caught the attention of folk from all around the territory. Stories of his courage spread like wildfire, and one by one, people from all walks of life showed up, eager to stand beside him. There was Daisy Cooper, a fierce woman with a sharpshooter's aim, old Tom, a grizzled former soldier with tales of his own, and young Billy, just 18 but with a fire in his heart for justice. Together, they formed what we now call the Kane Brigade, a group of settlers, farmers, and wanderers who'd had enough of Grayson's reign. Each one of them came with their own burdens and scars, but they found something in Jedediah worth fighting for. And with every passing day, that ragtag band became something mighty. Soon enough, Grayson knew he'd stirred a hornet's nest he wasn't ready to reckon with. The showdown came at dusk, with Grayson's gang riding hard into town, guns at the ready. But they weren't met with a handful of scared settlers, they were met with Jedediah and his brigade, lined up shoulder to shoulder, ready to defend their land and each other. The battle was fierce, and it was brutal. Jed's people fought with every ounce of courage they had, knowing they weren't just fighting for themselves, but for the promise of a life free from fear. Jedediah himself went toe-to-toe with Grayson, and by the end, it was the gang that broke first, leaving their leader to face Jed alone. Grayson, with nowhere to run, met his match that day, and his reign of terror ended right there in the heart of the town he'd once ruled through fear. The victory wasn't just a win against Grayson, it was a testament to the strength found in unity and the resilience of the human spirit. Jedediah didn't just save his land, he inspired the people to stand together. And from that day forward, they'd never be the same. That town thrived, not just because of one man's bravery but because he showed them they all had a spark of courage in him. Jedediah Kane became more than a man, he became a legend. And long after his days, folks remember the strength he gave them. They remember the values he stood for: honor, resilience, and the unbreakable spirit of the American frontier. So, my friends, that's the tale of Jedediah Kane, a man who faced impossible odds with an iron will and a heart full of purpose. Remember, every hero starts as just a man or woman, someone willing to stand tall, even when the wind blows cold and hard. It's the spirit of people like Jedediah that built the West and the heart that keeps it alive even now. Sometimes, it's the quiet resolve that makes the biggest impact. Hold on to that, and you'll find yourself meeting any challenge that comes your way.